Not everyone in the company believed in performance, as Bob Lutz, the man who headed BMW's motorsport program at the time, quickly discovered.
Strangely enough, there wasn't a real consensus on that at BMW at the time. There was some feeling that, no, we need to become more dignified and move away from that boy racer image. And, luckily the view that we had to continue racing prevailed. But I'll tell you, not without considerable resistance at times. It wasn't always easy. You'd think BMW, everybody would say, oh yeah, that's a no-brainer, but it wasn't.
One of Lutz's first assignments was to win the European Touring Car Championship. And to do that, the motorsport team created the 3.0 CSL, a car that stirred immediate controversy with its radical aerodynamic wings and spoilers and clear message of speed.
And that made for a car that was very quickly dubbed the Batmobile. And it hit the market right at the peak of the anti-automobile movement in Germany. It was in about 1973 under the Willy Brandt administration, which of course was socialist. And the general press of the nation's television stations were all over BMW for producing this obscene high-performance automobile, which was further going to encourage irresponsible driving and wasting the world's scarce resources. Remember, it was right after the first energy crisis. So this was one of those product programs in my career that did not necessarily enhance my career.
The 3.0 CSL, however, went on to enjoy an outstanding career as a race car, winning 6 European Touring Car Championships. Then, BMW Motorsport moved on to a new challenge: build a BMW supercar that could compete head-to-head on the racetrack with the likes of Porsche and Ferrari. It was to be based upon this striking turbocharged show car that appeared at the Munich Olympics and would be called the M1. But there was one little problem. In order to race their supercar, they also had to build 400 road versions, and the fledgling BMW Motorsport company didn't yet have the manufacturing capacity to do that. So a deal was struck with the Italian coachmaker Lamborghini to build the bodies. But right from the start, the alliance quickly ran into problems. And when it became clear that production deadlines couldn't be met, BMW Motorsport director Jochen Neerpasch fell under increasing pressure to get the M1 on the racetrack. He responded by creating one of the most innovative racing series ever, the Pro Car Series. The idea: put the world's best Formula One drivers in identical M1s and have them race head-to-head at the top Grand Prix events. With sizable prize money at stake, the Pro Cars were an instant hit and provided some of the best racing of the 1979 and 1980 Grand Prix seasons, with Niki Lauda winning the first championship and Nelson Piquet the second. Meanwhile, work on the road M1s continued, but by the time the race car became eligible for European competition, rule changes had made it pretty much obsolete. Even so, it did manage several good finishes in Europe. And in the USA, it was a big winner in International Motorsports Association GTO competition, taking the series championship. By now, the motorsport engineers realized that they had perhaps bitten off a bit more than they could chew with the M1 project and turned closer to home for their next challenge: create a series of special high-performance M cars based upon BMW production models. Road cars that would embody race car technology. One of the first was the M6, a limited edition 6 Series coupe. The sales brochure promised one test drive and you'll have that special gleam in your eye. And one man who took the M6 for such a test drive was 3-time World Formula One champion Nelson Piquet.
Well, let's go for a quick lap. Oh, you better put your seatbelts on, because we are in a very powerful car, and it's quite dangerous here in Korea. Well, think one of the most nice sensations, I think, is to drive a racing car. And better than a racing car is to drive a car, a comfortable car that you can drive every day and have nearly the same power of a racing car. It's not only the power is important, but also the handling of the car. If you have a good engine, a lot of speed, you need to have a good brakes and good handling. Really. Okay, we're in the straight again. I was a little bit quiet because I have to concentrate sometimes. And then the straight will go about 106, 170 in a quick corner. It looks like really the same performance of a racing car. You don't feel wind noise, you don't feel bumps, and that's a good thing.
Exterior designed to disguise its true identity. For the top speed of this nice, practical four-door family sedan was over 150 miles per hour. The cars were hand-built at the motorsport facility and fitted with 24-valve 3.5-liter motors that produced 256 horsepower. But the market for the M6 and M5 was a limited one. The key to the future of the M cars would be this machine, the M3. Former BMW North America M-Car brand manager Eric Wensberg was there in the early days.
The M division in the United States, in particular, had been a very small niche of high-priced cars. The E34 M5, the M6, cars that had achieved a certain foothold in the market with Ferraris, Aston Martins, Porsches, other high-end exotic cars. And we thought that was nice, but it was not a very strong business case to be made for 200, 300, 400 units a year. The challenge to break through to a more viable market was to really look at where the sports car market was in the United States.
The M3's design concept was a simple one, a sedan that could run with the world's best sports cars, which gave the motorsport engineers a chance to roll up their shirt sleeves and build an authentic German hot rod, and then show what it could do on the racetrack. And on the racetrack, it proved to be nothing short of a rocket, winning the European Touring Car Championship in its very first season of competition, and going on to win over 1,500 races, including multiple victories in grueling 24-hour contests held on Belgium's Spa circuit and Germany's famed Nürburgring. By the end of its production run, the first-generation M3 had captured some 100 international racing championships and proved to be the most successful touring car of its time.
Pedigree of the BMW M series of road cars. It's also a great archive of historic racing material. Coming up next is some great footage of the BMW-powered Brabham Formula One car that powered Nelson Piquet to the World Drivers' Championship. Listen for the horsepower figures that engine developed and realize that it all came from just 4 cylinders and only 1.5 liters. Gordon Murray, the brilliant McLaren designer whose cars have won in Formula One and at Le Mans, talks about the BMW-powered McLaren F1 supercar he designed. It was a car that won Le Mans in its first attempt. You'll also see Sam Posey and David Hobbs give their insight, not because they're Speedvision commentators, but because both raced with distinction for the mark.
If there's a secret behind the remarkable success of the M cars, it has to be under the hood, where you'll find M power. For powerful, reliable motors have always been the heart and soul of BMW.
The BMW, only like the Ferrari, had that heart at Le Mans. Tremendous speed on that straightaway, all thanks to some characteristic which an engineer could explain to you. I can't, but to a driver it sort of translates to some kind of a heart.
I tell you, I have to think that the secret of BMW's success in their racing engines is Paul Rocha. He's been with the company for years and years, and he's always been their chief engine development guy. and he obviously just have an absolute magic touch with small displacement, small number of cylinder engines.
And Russia delivered by coming up with the most powerful Formula One motor ever built. This 1.5-liter turbocharged engine that produced well over 1,000 horsepower and propelled Nelson Piquet to the World Driving Championship in 1983. Along the way, Russia's engineers had a chance to push the performance envelope far beyond what anyone thought possible, as team driver Mark Schurer discovered.
And I once asked Paul Roche, a chief engineer, how much horsepower I had just now out there. And he said, I don't know, because our dyno ends up at 1,200 horsepower, but it was at the end, so it must have been more.
The McLaren F1 supercar, with a price tag of over $1 million and a top speed of over 200 miles per hour. It was designed to be the fastest and most expensive production sports car ever built. Its motor, an M-Power V12.
The engine's pretty unique. It's the most powerful large capacity, normally aspirated engine made, from a specific output point of view, that is horsepower per cc. It's rather like having 10 VW Golf engines in a car that weighs just over a ton.
Not only was the McLaren F1 the fastest road car in the world, it also proved to be one of the fastest on the racetrack, winning the 24 Hours of Le Mans in its very first try. By now, an all-new M3 was on the drawing board. And unlike its cafe racer predecessor, this would be a sophisticated, comfortable GT car.
I'll never forget the first time I went to Germany to drive around the country roads of Munich, outside of Munich, with the engineers to see what this car was really like. And I'll never forget the astonishment that I felt about what this car was really capable of doing, yet having the refinement that you could literally drive it day in, day out.
The most interesting aspect of the M cars to me was that for a very long time they were tightly focused on a very small group of people, and very successfully so, and those cars have fabulous reputations and are very desirable. But when they did a North American M3, and all of a sudden that little group just grew exponentially, and now suddenly we got this army of people who want to drive M coupes and M3 series, and I'm just astonished at how that car took off, and the kind of message that it seems to give to a much broader audience than it ever did before.
The thing that really separates the M3 in particular, and most of the current day M products from the rest, is it is the real McCoy. It is not a pretender. It is built from the ground up to deliver world-class driving experience.
Still, this new M3 also had to deliver on the racetrack, and the motorsport engineers demanded that it do so in as stock production trim as possible.
We use virtually all of the parts are production parts, except for the pistons and the camshaft. Everything else is production. The block, the heads, the crank, the rods, the bearings. So when you look at the cars and you look at the fenders and you look at the doors, other than accommodating wider tires, everything is original BMW.
The production-based M3s were not only able to run with the special race-built competition, they blew their doors off, rolling up a string of 16 straight victories, including 2 straight wins in the 24 Hours of Daytona, and capturing the 1997 and 1998 U.S. Professional Sports Car GT3 Championship, as well as the U.S. Road Racing Championship. Yet what surprised the championship-winning drivers the most wasn't the M3's awesome performance on the track, but the race car's remarkable similarity to the production road car.
The way it turns in, the way it handles, the way it slides, they're the same. And that's pretty amazing to bring a street car right to the racetrack.
That's the nice thing, is that the characteristics of the road car really translate to the race car, and they are very similar in the overall handling and balance.
The base of our cars is the street car.
From the original concept of using motorsport technology to create a superior road car has now grown an entire lineup of M cars, including the M3 sedan, the M Roadster, and the M Coupe, a machine that's taken the concept of a two-seater GT car to a new level.
Everybody gets out of this car with a huge smile on their face. It is impossible not to love driving this car. There's nothing about it that you wouldn't like. The car fits you like a glove. It's a very intimate driving experience, and it is responsive to every single input that you give it, and it's responsive to every input that comes at you from the road. And that's exactly what you want when you get behind the wheel of a sports car. This is the true definition of a BMW sports car, and it's only BM engineers who could have created it.
Those cars really talk to the enthusiast driver. You get into it and start it and poke it into gear, and you just know that you've come home. You know, it's an enthusiast dream car that's easily available. Our readers voted BMW the best car company in the world.
It hasn't always been an easy journey. But when you assemble a passionate group of dreamers, designers, engineers, craftsmen, and race drivers, anything is possible.
Continue this successful tradition. Here's BMW M brand manager Scott Doninger with more on the 1999 BMW M Coupe.
The M Coupe was introduced in the fall of 1998, and it's received rave reviews since the journalists have started to drive it. And it's also received rave reviews in the enthusiast crowd. This is a driver's car. There's nothing else like it from BMW. There's nothing else like it out there in terms of competition. The car is as responsive as anything that BMW has ever made. In fact, it's the quickest accelerating BMW that's ever been brought to the United States. And we're really excited to bring this car to the American market. We've sold almost 850 of them. We envision that we're going to be out of production in terms of sales for the next couple of years because the car is so much fun to drive. Its controversial styling grows on people when they get to see it and when they get behind the wheel of it. But that's really when the fun starts. It's like a go-kart on steroids. That's really the kind of the tagline that we've been using. And it's really been designed for the enthusiast. This car was not designed by a corporation. This car was designed by the most passionate car manufacturers and engineers in the world, and it's the M brand, it's the M designers in Germany who put this car together after work. They got together and they said, what would it be like to make a coupe out of the wonderful M Roadster? So the car's got an incredibly passionate heritage, and it's one of the most exciting cars that we've ever built. The new M5 is going to come to the United States in the fall of 1999. And when it comes here, we're confident that everyone who drives it is going to say the same thing. Everyone is going to say that the new M5 is simply the best car in the world. There's just nothing else like it. On the luxury side, it offers all of the wonderful amenities that the 540 and the best of the 5 Series has to offer. But on the performance side, 400 horsepower, 369 foot-pounds of torque, the car is simply unmatched in terms of its performance and luxury combination. There just isn't anything else like it in the world. The new M5 really is a miracle in terms of automotive manufacturing. It's a combination of the highest level of luxury that BMW can bring to a car and what is now kind of a new achievement for the M designers and the M engineers, which is the highest level of performance they've ever created. It's the first time that a V8 has been used in an M product. 400 horsepower, 369 foot-pounds of torque, unbelievable handling and suspension package. It simply is unlike anything else that any other manufacturer can offer. It's supremely balanced, and we'll set a new standard in the industry. It's kind of a Jekyll and Hyde. It's a wolf in sheep's clothing. It's an understated statement of engineering excellence, and we're extremely happy that the M5 is going to come here in 1999, later in the year, and we anticipate that every one of them will be sold with a name on it.
One doesn't have to look at the sales figures to see that BMW's philosophy and strategy were successful. Just look at how many you see on the highway. The M-Series family of cars are everywhere. BMW has a long history of using racing to improve and sell their product. Immediately after World War II, the German market could better afford motorcycles, so BMW turned its efforts there, winning in two-wheel and three-wheel sidecar racing. And in the process, BMW continued to develop better machines and sold more of them. BMW has upped the corporate ante again. Next year, their engines will power the Williams Formula One team as BMW rejoins the most sophisticated form of motorsport and takes on the most powerful engines that rivals Mercedes, Ferrari, Ford, and Peugeot can produce. It'll be interesting to see how BMW uses the Formula One program to improve their engines and sell more cars. I'm Bill Patrick. Thanks for watching.